So Fate Extra Last Encore has been going on for a while, and although the reception hasn't been the greatest, it's still a Fate series nonetheless. And with the Netflix release coming right around the corner, we're gonna have a whole bunch of other people who will tune into this series for the first time and just be like, what the fuck is going on right now? So if you happen to be one of those people that aren't quite familiar with the complex system that is the entire Fate universe, then worry not, because I'm here to guide you through this series and hopefully make it something that's more enjoyable to watch. So just like I did with Fate Apocrypha when it first came out, I'm going to start off with a beginner's guide to Fate Extra, just covering some of the new concepts and elements that are unique to this particular timeline. Then I'll start going through the servants week by week as chosen by you guys through the community poll. Now, what exactly makes Fate Extra different from Fate Stay Night? Well, other than the fact that it takes place around 1,000 years into the future, there was an incident in the year 1970 that started to diminish the world's supply of mana. By the year 2030, all of the mana in the world was completely gone. This is what had caused the Fate Extra timeline to diverge from the Fate Stay Night timeline. Everything that happened before that point has been said to be the same. Which probably brings up even more confusion, since we have characters like Shinji, Rin, and Kirei all making appearances even though one would think that they'd be dead after 1,000 years. And the truth of the matter is that these are different people. Rin is a relative of the same lineage, Shinji just happens to look like his Fate Stay Night counterpart, and Kirei is just an NPC produced from data collected by the Moon Cell to produce the likeness of someone who once participated in the Holy Grail War. Now, if you've watched the first few episodes, you'd see that the Moon Cell was mentioned a few times. But although I'm sure the anime tried its best to explain it as thoroughly and briefly as possible, I don't think that it was quite enough to really understand what exactly it is. So allow me to try to explain it. In the year 2030, the Moon Cell was discovered within the moon itself. It's composed of many photonic crystals, which are a very pure mineral that can control the transmission of light, allowing for a collection of them to act as a supercomputer of sorts. This supercomputer is referred to as the Moon Cell Automaton. Scientists have dated the Moon Cell back to 100 million years before the Earth or Moon were even formed, meaning that this supercomputer was created by a civilization that was over 4.6 billion years old. As simply as I can put it, the Moon Cell holds the Moon Cell Automaton, which is essentially a supercomputer that has been observing the Earth since its creation and has been storing data on the world and its inhabitants en masse. Everything from our history and ideas to the very core of our soul has been copied to the Moon Cell's database. Now, even though I've been referring to this Moon Cell and its automaton as a computer, it does have intelligence of its own, enough that it can change the very fabric of reality with the calculations that it makes. So with a device whose sole purpose is to observe and collect data, the Moon Cell wanted to collect the best of it, and through the observations of the Holy Grail Wars in the past, it determined that the best way to get premium data samples from humans was to do something similar to a Holy Grail War, and thus the Moon Holy Grail War started. So if you haven't pieced it all together by now, the Moon Cell is Fate Extra's equivalent of the Holy Grail. In order for the Moon Cell to continue to collect quality data, it selects 999 worthy candidates, basically people who have the potential to become masters. It then digitizes their souls and enters it into the Moon Cell so that a simulation of a Holy Grail War can begin. Obviously, 999 candidates are a bit much, so they all start out in Sukumihara Academy, an artificial world created by the Moon Cell where all candidates have no recollection of the past. Only those who are able to remember their past, accept that they are now part of the Moon Cell, and will themselves to fight in the tournament will become one of the 128 who become a master. Those who don't make it have their souls deleted from the database and their existence erased from all records. But as you'd expect, since there are 128 masters, there are also 128 servants, each given to a master by the serial phantasm, more commonly referred to as Seraph. The Seraph is a spiritual computer that acts as the administrator of the war. It is also responsible for the summoning of every servant, the creation of NPCs, moderation of all tournament areas, and most importantly, the protection of the Moon Cell's core. Now, what about the actual structure of the Moon Holy Grail War? Although a 128-person battle royale would be pretty cool to watch, it's not how this war takes place anymore. It was restructured to be a single elimination type bracket. Over a period of 7 weeks, with each week being one round, a master and servant pair are matched up against another master and servant. The two pairs are given 6 days to prepare for battle in a reality marble supported by Seraph. On the 7th day, they must fight against each other until one is eliminated. Then the victor moves on to the next floor, and the process repeats until only one servant master pair is left, thus granting them access to the core of the moon cell where they can grant their own wishes. This was how the Moon Holy Grail War was supposed to be, but in Fate Extra Last Encore, it's slightly different. The rules have been changed, and there's no more 7-day limit for the battle, meaning that something happened to Seraph that makes it incapable of moderating the Holy Grail War. So with masters and servants not having to fight each other, the Moon Holy Grail War has reached a state of stagnation, where a winner has yet to be determined. So the moon cell keeps bringing master candidates to the academy and then sets up 128 people to fight. But since when they get there they don't really have to fight, they just end up staying on the first floor. And just a side note, whenever I say floor, I'm just referring to the rounds of the tournament. In order to make it to the next round, or ascend to the next floor, you have to first beat the floor master that's guarding it. Ascending each of the floors brings you closer to the core of the moon cell, bringing you one step closer to the power that grants you that wish. Okay, so let's recap. In 1970, all of the mana in the world started to dry up. In 2030, all the mana is gone and the moon cell is discovered. The moon cell is found to observe humanity with the objective of recording the best data. So after observing numerous Holy Grail Wars, it determines that a Holy Grail War is necessary to gain the highest quality data. 999 master candidates have their souls digitized and entered into the moon cell, and out of that, 128 are given servants by Seraph, the war administrator, and are then told to fight. The person who wins 7 rounds and ascends to the top floor gains access to the power within the moon cell core and is granted any wish. There are also NPCs that are created by Seraph in the image of people that it had once observed. Their only purpose though is to ensure the progression of human lives. They're just programs coded with one goal in mind and nothing else. An NPC can become self-aware since they are based off the recordings of previously living humans, but once the war ends, they are deleted and then recreated at the start of a new war. AIs and advanced AIs are also amongst the NPCs, except they have the ability to make their own decisions. The advanced AIs are the moderators though, and although they are pretty much reincarnations of the human soul, they have been hard-coded to promote the observation of humanity at all costs. And that's pretty much what I think you need to know to get started with Fate Extra Last Encore. This was actually a lot more confusing than I thought it was going to be. So if you heard me say something that didn't quite make sense or is proved to be incorrect, please let me know in the comments below. Also, feel free to let me know how you think Fate Extra is doing as well. And don't forget to go vote in the community poll for which servant you'd like covered in next week's episode of Servants Explained. But as always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So until next time, ciao!